Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Why Your TMS Needs Appointment Booking Features, sponsored by PortPro. I'm going to go ahead and introduce today's speaker, Walker Banks. Walker is the Vice President of Operations and Corporate Strategy for PortPro, a technology company with expertise in the global drayage industry, helping carriers streamline workflows with best-in-class tools to run their operation efficiently and profitably. A solution seeker by nature, Walker collaborates with PortPro's team of product developers, marketers, operations, and financial experts on new product development and markets that can benefit from the company's technology. A lifelong student of business and international relations, Walker understands the unique factors driving the logistics industry, particularly the first mile where the drayage community operates and is plagued by manually driven processes. Prior to PortPro, he helped build startup GeoStamp from the ground floor up into a nationally recognized SaaS solution used by port authorities, marine terminals, and drayage trucking companies. Walker has deep knowledge and expertise in all areas of product ownership, including strategic planning, finance, strategy, team building, and partnerships. He thrives on business development, having launched products overseas, including Europe and Asia. He holds an MBA from George Washington University, an MA from Chapman University in International Relations and Global Affairs, and a BA from Eckerd College in Political Science. Walker participated in an elite student program at the United Nations in New York City, where he earned a certificate on global sustainable development goals. Walker is also an experienced competitive sailor. A Corinthian world champion, he sailed for 2 years on the World Match Racing Tour with 36 Below Racing, a New Zealand-based sailing and racing team. Walker is excited to play a key role in PortPro's future growth and collaborating with potential partners on products and services that help the drayage industry. With that, Walker, I turn it over to you.
Thanks for the intro, David. You always make me smile when you give me my intro, and I give the big thumbs up every time you mention GW, because for the audience they don't know, David and I are both GW grads, so it's some fun that we have there. Anyways, thank you so much, David. Good morning to everybody that's on the West Coast, and good afternoon to everybody that's joining us on the East Coast. Again, thanks so much for joining us today. As David mentioned in his fabulous introduction, my name is Walker Banks. I'm the VP of Operations and Corporate Strategy at PortPro. And today, we're really excited to share with you some thoughts about how PortPro, my organization, is looking to resolve some of the most painful headaches that drayage carriers deal with on a daily basis. And that's, again, as David mentioned in his wonderful info, booking and managing appointments with marine terminals. Before I begin, I want to give a special thanks to the IANA team, and especially to Hope and again, David. IANA is always and has always been a wonderful partner for us, not just in giving us a platform for discussions like this, but through the Intermodal Expo, other webinars that we've hosted with IANA, and then just, put it plain and simple, just connecting networks across the supply chain. You guys are always really great, and you've been a wonderful partner for us. Last but not least, let me flip the slide over here so you guys are looking at the actual intro slide. There we go, perfect. Last but not least, I've got a roughly 30-minute presentation that's just going to be sort of me monologuing as I go through this presentation, but I'm going to be real careful to cut it right at 30 minutes because I certainly want to carve out time, as David mentioned, for the Q&A portion at the end. There are 3 major hierarchical reasons TMS providers should want to incorporate appointment functionality into their software. And they're the same 3 major benefits for carriers that actually adopt the technology. These are improved operational efficiency, which is the slide you're looking at here on my screen, like with dispatch and driver planning. There's enhanced data accuracy, ensuring no missed loads or double bookings, things like that. There are reduced costs and improving the customer experience, which I'm going to dive pretty deep on that one. So I'll put a pin in that one and circle back towards the end of the presentation on it's either the 3rd or 4th slide. But before I jump into any of that, I think it's worth setting the stage a bit more by actually explaining how the appointment booking system works in our TMS, which, again, for the audience, if you're not aware, is DrayOS. That's our flagship product, PortPro's flagship product. It's our drayage-based TMS. Again, it's designed and implemented such that drayage carriers can run their entire business using DrayOS. And normally I wouldn't be pushing our software on a platform like this, but to our knowledge, no other TMS in the market has quite the level of integrations that we do in terms of actually allowing an appointment to be booked, rescheduled, or canceled straight from within the TMS, keeping with our philosophy to serve drayage carriers of all sizes through every facet of their operations. I'm going to keep coming back to this concept, but a single pane of glass is going to be what I drill pretty deep into. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our great partners. We've been working with a couple of them. I'd like to give a kind of a special shout out to eModal. They've given us a kind of unprecedented access to their APIs, and I believe we're the first and probably most prominent TMS solution that they've worked with across the entire country. But that's all been connected straight into the back end of our software. Again, that allow a dispatcher or a CSR to book appointments straight from within the TMS using the user interface to do so. And again, in DrayOS, it's our web-based TMS, users can see terminal schedules, available appointments, available containers, empty return locations, and a plethora of other data points. The big win, however, again, is the ability to book a terminal appointment or multiple across many drivers and in many terminals across the country straight from within the TMS. Again, this is made possible with integration and technology partners like eModal, whether they be the terminals themselves or a platform, again, like eModal. Both have been wonderful to work with in this endeavor. One last thing I'll mention that's tied to the stage setting portion of this webinar, these functionalities I'm mentioning can also be automated in the TMS, meaning you can configure the system, DrayOS, to book appointments based on your driver's schedules, empties that need to be returned, availability, like with holds, as in the container is off the ship and ready to be picked up and it's clear of a customs hold, etc. What that means is that staff doesn't have to come in at 5 a.m. and manually book appointments on 12 different terminal websites anymore. It can be done automatically, which saves time, money, and probably most importantly, frustration. Now for the tangible presentation. The first benefit is operational efficiency. I'm going to get real deep real quick here, but dispatchers can achieve more peace of mind when they know the system they're using to do their job consolidates information from various places, to put it really bluntly. Additionally, the TMS allows them to book, as I've mentioned 3 times already, without having to leave the TMS, book appointments without having to leave the TMS. And they don't have to visit a bunch of different terminal websites anymore. Traditional methods of coordinating schedules, making calls, and manual data entry can result in a lot of inefficiencies and a lot of human errors. Any drayage carrier that's watching this webinar, whether it be live or the recording, knows that's the case. I've already mentioned automation and how our driver planner tool, which is a separate tool, connects to the automatic appointment booking functionality that we've got in the TMS. And again, this saves time and money and allows dispatchers and customer service reps to focus on exceptions rather than day-to-day issues that's kind of become the norm, or rather is a state of normality for some drayage carriers, especially those that are operating in LA and Long Beach and New York, New Jersey, where appointments are a little more complex, especially in LA and Long Beach. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention employees' well-being here, right? I've been to customers' offices where they either don't have the appointment booking functionality in place yet, or my visit was prior to implementation, and I see 3 screens and 12 tabs, again, especially in LA and Long Beach, right? Just painstaking to go from place to place, ensuring accuracy, and then manually entering all of that data into the system. There's just a lot of room for error in manual processes like that, and ensuring accuracy and that your driver can actually make it on time is a lot to balance on top of a dispatcher or even a CSR's regular day-to-day job. Just sort of complex. So the appointment booking functionality, as you're looking here on my screen, correlates to operational efficiencies with all 4 of those bullets, or excuse me, all 5 of those bullets there, ultimately rolling up into an easier time booking appointments, a reduction in human error, and then just less frustration without ever having to leave the TMS. So data accuracy is a good segue into more specific details. As I mentioned before, partners like marine terminals themselves and eModal have been great partners. Their software is connected to ours, just to put it really plain and simple, via API, which is structurally beneficial in the sense that the integration helps keep data flow and functionality strong for the future. And I'll get more into that here in just a few minutes. But once an appointment is booked in our TMS, the API integration actually books it at the terminal via the terminal API or the eModal endpoints. So I'm getting real down deep on mechanics here, but to put it plain and simple, our system, DreOS, is connected to either the terminal appointment system or eModal if they're using eModal. And when you, as a dispatcher, book an appointment in our software, that connects via API to those two softwares that I mentioned, those other softwares that I mentioned, and physically books the appointment. And then returns all the necessary information like confirmation, special instructions, if that's the case. All of that comes back straight into the TMS, right? And then those appointment fields that are in DreOS, or if you're using another TMS and what they should be building towards, that appointment information gets automatically uploaded straight into the load. So again, we're reducing the number of websites that a dispatcher has to visit because we're connecting with other providers in the industry. We are reducing the amount of manual data entry that needs to take place with appointment booking functionality via API. We are enhancing the system's utilization across other tools that we have, like the driver planner, right? Live load tracking, automated emails and notifications, the customer portal, and we're reducing the number of errors that are possible with these manual efforts. So just to kind of outline the three major things that data accuracy tethers to, those would be them. And again, once the appointment is booked, it's tied straight to the load in our TMS. So I'm going to reiterate that one more time. I know I've said it twice already, but I think it's worth mentioning one more time. The appointment's booked, confirmed, the information then comes back into the TMS, and then from there it's uploaded automatically straight into the load. Prior to this appointment booking functionality, again, you've got the manual effort of going to the terminal website, booking the appointment, and then going back into your TMS and manually entering that data. Okay, I booked a 9 to 10 a.m. appointment for an import load out of APM, right? So I'm adding that in. And then that tethers to the ultimate delivery location and then maybe even an empty return. But with the driver planner tool and other functionality in the TMS, we now, as the software provider, upload that appointment information automatically. We now know that the driver's heading to drop off that import at a warehouse. We flag to the dispatcher, hey, this empty is approaching last free day, and it happens to be very close to where that driver is heading to drop off that import. Why don't you go pick that empty up? Dispatcher says, that sounds great. They assign the driver to go grab that empty as part of their next leg. And the system sees that and then says, okay, we need to book an empty appointment. And this is assuming availability, right? Which the system checks as well. It's going to say, okay, great. That empty can be returned to APM or Long Beach Container Terminal or YTI or wherever. And then that appointment, so long as it's available, and again, so long as that terminal is accepting those empties, the system's going to book that appointment for them. Now, there's some nuance to that conversation, right? Those terminals may not be accepting those empties. That empty may not be approaching last free day, so it may not be a hot commodity. It may not be something the dispatcher necessarily wants to deal with just yet. And it's also assuming that an appointment is available, right? So that's kind of like a perfect scenario that I just outlined, but it's a simple one, and I think it illustrates the benefits of having accurate data, which then in turn allows the system to do a better job on behalf of and with dispatchers and CSRs. So it's a downstream benefit, right? It's It's making the life of a CSR and dispatcher easier because the data is more accurate, because we've got the appointment booking functionality, and that's obviously made possible because of our API integrations with our fabulous partners throughout the industry. So anyways, just kind of a slight segue there. I've already mentioned that with automation and a single pane of glass, a TMS with appointment booking functionality can reduce human errors. I think I've beat that horse to death at this point, but it prevents mishaps like missed appointments as well. And I'll just jump straight into the next realized and tangible benefit, which is a reduction in cost and an improved customer experience. Now, I know some of you folks, especially if you're drayage carriers and you're watching this webinar, you're looking at that first bullet and you're saying on-time guarantees. Walker, there is no way we can do on-time guarantees. And I would, in large part, agree with you. There's a caveat to this discussion in the sense that the appointment booking functionality, the other tools that then tie to it that we have in our solution, like the driver planner, empty return tracking, per diem auditing and reporting tools, that allows for better communication with your customers, and in turn allows you to give more accurate estimations of when loads are going to be delivered, empties are going to be returned. And that's because you can guarantee that the appointments are going to be booked programmatically, right? And again, that goes back to a reduction in human error, goes back to a reduction in manual processes. It goes to the fact that a TMS needs to serve the carrier, the dispatcher, and the CSR in a more meaningful way that then roll up to information and reports you provide to your BCOs or your brokers. So reducing costs and improving the customer experience, both things I've mentioned already, but without much supporting details, is something I'll just dive into a little bit more now. Again, that first one is a bit tongue-in-cheek, but with the appointment features baked right into the TMS, again, I'm going to keep repeating that, you can give your customers far more accurate data related to the load and event statuses, things like picked up, en route, delivered, appointment times, obviously, and so on and so forth. This ultimately results in a better customer experience, as I just mentioned, i.e., your brokers and BCOs are going to want to work more closely with you than with carriers who are unable to provide this sort of data and this sort of guarantee via the programmatic enhancements they realize by implementing a modern TMS solution. And secured appointments, just to put it bluntly, mean time saved, but it also means more dependent and predictable operations, which from an organizational perspective is sort of an unparalleled benefit. In other webinars that we've done with IANA, we've mentioned why TMS vendors should be meaning organizations like PortPro, should be thinking about empty return tracking and per diem fighting tools. So I won't mention much more here other than this data, meaning the appointment data, compounds intangible value when paired with the ability to book, change, edit, update, and secure appointments automatically straight from within the software. Again, I'm going to go back to that example as one of our customers, as before the functionality ever even existed in our solution, but go visit the dispatch office, really early in the morning. And, they've had 6-7 dispatchers there for a couple hours there. In this case, it's not the CSRs, it's the dispatchers that are booking appointments. They've all got 12 tabs open. They're manually entering in data. It's cumbersome, right? But having the system be able to book it, guarantee the appointment, and then have that information flow straight through into the TMS was just world changing for these folks. And they've grown their business using DreOS, just generally speaking, mainly because their customers love the reporting tools that we have. But now they're more operationally efficient, and they've actually repurposed some of their staff to focus on business development and more strategic initiatives. So their staff becomes more efficient, which means they can do more with less, which increases their capacity. And because that staff has time savings on their hand, they've saved time, they can call up more brokers, BCOs, forwarders, you name it, and they can they can inquire about getting more business. And that's exactly in this example. I'm not going to name the company, but that's exactly what these folks have done over the last 18 months since they become a customer of ours. And again, they just adopted the appointment booking functionality because it's relatively new, but those phenomenons have continued and actually have compounded when you think about, or when they realized that the appointment booking functionality tethers to all of the other, functional enhancements that we've made in DreOS. So again, just to put it really blunt, you can book appointments, you can change appointments, you can cancel appointments, you can do everything straight from within the TMS. The dispatcher no longer has to leave the TMS, and all of those other benefits that compound across all the other features are something that I'm going to keep doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on. Last thing I'm going to mention here before I pass it back to David and open it up for the Q&A segment is the agile methodology. And this is going to get a little pie in the sky. It's getting away from the tangible boots on the ground benefits that you can realize by implementing, modern TMS software. But I think it's worth mentioning for a couple of reasons, and that's why I incorporated it into the presentation. For those who don't know, it's the way most modern software companies develop product. And put simply, the agile methodology means a perpetual and sustained improvement in products sold to a given market. We built a TMS, yes, but since bringing DreOS to market, and again, I normally wouldn't be pontificating about our own software so much, but as it relates to appointment booking functionality, to my knowledge, we're kind of leading the way for the market. It means we've stayed true to the agile methodology. When you look at all of the enhancements we've made since bringing DreOS to market roughly 4 years ago. The list is long, but the major ones that we've talked about on this webinar and in some others are the appointment booking functionality, which is one component, but the driver planner, which you've heard me mention a few times, is another. And again, the automatic appointment booking functionality helps the driver planner tool function well. And the other one that I'll mention here, because it ties into the appointment booking functionality, is empty return tracking. So I gave you the example where we've got an empty that's approaching last free day. The system's tracking that. System knows it needs to be returned. It's giving reminders or issuing reminders to the dispatcher. And then when that dispatcher goes to assign that to a driver, or is planning it as part of a driver's day, maybe tomorrow or the day after, the system is then going and trying to book appointments with the automatic appointment functionality, booking appointment functionality, right? The other one I'll mention is vessel ETAs, which there's some obvious benefits to that. When the vessel is going to arrive, when the container is available at the marine terminal. The system sees that it's part of the driver's plan for the next couple of days, or maybe it's assigned right then and there, and the system knows you need an appointment. It's going to tell you, hey, this appointment, or there is an appointment available. Do you want me to book it? Yep, go ahead and book it. Or, hey, Mr. Dispatcher, we actually don't see any available appointments to pick up this load right now. Might be good to take a look at something else, right? Things like that, right? This is where the compounding effects really come into play. Web-based dispatching, obviously being able to dispatch from anywhere, on a laptop, on a tablet, that's ideal for a myriad of reasons, but doesn't tie into the appointment booking functionality quite as much. We've got brokerage tools that are coming to the market in a more robust way than we have them now. There's ERP functionality that we've been working on with automatic documentation collection, like TIRs at marine terminals, or if it's the driver, this isn't automatic, but taking a picture of the proof of delivery, signing on glass, having that roll straight back up into the load, and then having obviously everything else that's required to bill or invoice rather your customer is all at right at your fingertips. Invoicing same day is a big part of why some of the smaller and mid-sized carriers love our software. Right, everything is just rolled up very nicely right in an individual load and bundled into a really nice and pretty invoice, right? And then last but not least, I'm going to mention the APIs and the integrations again. in the world of software, you are in part how well you work with your partners. And again, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention eModal for probably the fifth time today, but they have really allowed us as a partner to build this kind of functionality and to come to market with something that's really beneficial for all the reasons that we've talked about today in the market. So partners and APIs and the ability to conduct integrations is critical, not just for any software company, but especially in supply chains because of how many different logistics companies touch a load from origin to final destination, right? The ability to have the ocean carrier connect to the marine terminal, connect to the drayage carrier, connect to the warehouse, connect to the driver, and then ultimately having all of that information, the visibility component, roll up in a really easy to understand way is critical. And integrations and APIs are a big part of why that's becoming more and more commonplace in the industry. And again, the list goes on and on and on. But the best part is these innovations that TMS providers are bringing to the market are not going to stop. And drayage carriers of all sizes have a lot to be excited about. So any TMS provider that's adopting this sort of agile methodology and making perpetual and sustained enhancements to their software is and should be viewed as very meaningful for the industry. So anyways, I'm just being cognizant of time. I'm right at the 30-minute mark here. I appreciate everyone for listening. And David, I'm gonna hand it back to you for the Q&A segment.
Great. Thanks, Walker. We do have a couple questions, so I'll just go ahead and share them with you and let you respond.
Absolutely.
First question is will this TMS work for Midwest motor carriers, or is it designed more or solely for coastal motor carriers?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And there's some irony there because it's actually a timely question as well. The short answer is DrayOS can be utilized by, we use the word drayage a lot, but this is an IANA webinar. It can be used by any intermodal carrier. So we've got plenty of customers that don't ever visit a marine terminal. That's where our appointment functionality obviously is, relevant. There's not appointments at rail yards, but we've got a lot of customers that just do rail delivery, cross dock, that are in the Midwest. We've got a team actually, that small team that's actually based in Chicago. There's an account executive and some support people out there. So yes, we do have functionality. The system can be utilized by rail-oriented carriers. Absolutely.
Thank you. And next question is, do you provide developer API documentation somewhere?
We do. We've got I'm gonna give a short answer and then a slightly longer answer as well. We've got APIs that are available for any one of our customers to use. So that's kind of the nice part about working with a modern software provider is, you don't always have to call us for everything. If you've got a proficient engineering group that's in-house or an IT group that's in-house, they can take our publicly available APIs and they can build an integration to whatever they want, whether it be an ERP solution, whether it be some sort of mid-level accounting software. You can even pull data in to DrayOS, so there's post functionality. It's really designed to be hands-off is not the right word, but we've designed it such that we, as the software provider, are not holding you as the customer back if you've got a really awesome engineering and IT group, right? We've obviously got our own product strategy, and it can be cumbersome when you're getting requests from customers to try and fit that in. This way, if you've got a really proficient internal group, they can take our APIs and they can build integrations on their own as well. That's not to say we don't build integrations, right? Obviously, eModal, the appointment booking functionality, is a good example of, hey, this is a universal integration. It fits within our product strategy and our product roadmap very well. Definitely a benefit we want to lean into. So those kinds of strategic partnerships we'll always lean into. But if there's some sort of homegrown ERP solution that you want to integrate into, our APIs are available for that as well.
Keeping on the theme of integrations, I have a question here. Are there plans to have appointment options for drayage carriers at Canadian rail terminals? And how friendly is the software to a Canadian-based carrier?
Two really good questions. I'm going to laugh there as well because it's also timely. And I just realized now the first question you asked, I didn't actually explain why it's timely. It's timely because we've just started to really grow in the rail market. And the same is true in the Canadian market as well. We've got now a small team that's they're based in Vancouver, but they service all of Canada. We've got a growing population of Canadian customers. I think we've got over 40, maybe even over 50 now that are just purely operating in Canada. It's a mix of marine and rail customers, for lack of better words. But it's very friendly, and we've gotten a lot of really solid feedback from our customers up in Canada. And as far as integrations are concerned, another good question. The answer is yes. We've got some integrations and appointment booking functionality for some marine terminals up there now. I want to say in the Vancouver area, but it may be elsewhere also. Good question. The short answer is yes. It's friendly for Canadian customers, and if it's not already done, it's certainly on the roadmap for the appointment booking functionality as well.
That's great. Another question. Does your system keep track of available appointments or the lack therefore of them in terms of charge resolutions?
It does, yes. And I think I'm going to give a slightly longer answer to that question as well, because I think the crux of that question is per diem related. Long story short, the answer is yes. We track which terminals are accepting empties when. We track appointments, right? So if there's no appointment availability, we're certainly, making whoever's using our software aware of that. And if there isn't an appointment available, the automatic appointment booking obviously isn't going to book something because it's not available, right? We're beholden in that case to what the terminal is giving us. But again, going back to the per diem thing, we're gonna track when an empty needs to be returned by, right? When the last free day is. And we're giving in-system alerts to folks using our software that say, hey, this empty is approaching last free day. And if you as an operator are unable to return that empty because the terminal shut out those empties or isn't accepting those empties, and you go past last free day, there is functionality in our TMS that saves that info, that saves those screenshots from the terminal. So it allows you as the carrier to go fight those unfair per diem charges. That was another really big and beneficial update, especially for our smaller and mid-sized customers that, they just deal with a lot of per diem issues, and having these tools, at their side to help fight those unfair charges was really critical. That may, by the way, I don't know who asked that question, but that may not have been what you were asking, but I thought it might be, so worth digging into a little bit.
I have another question. It's more of a resource question, so it's not exactly tailored to your presentation today, but I think you can probably share some insights.
Yeah.
And that question is how, if someone isn't familiar with the process of picking up containers at ports and needs guidance on the process, how would you recommend they get that?
That is a good question. I'm going to give an answer that's tailored to PortPro as a business. So this is a loaded answer. I'm going to give my answer with that, forewarning, this is a loaded answer. We have what I would say is a few unique divisions for supply chain and logistics, but not uncommon among software providers in other industries. So we've got a good mix of folks that have come from the drayage, intermodal, shipping, supply chain logistics space that work in our organization. And we've also got a good mix of folks that have come from outside the industry that bring that running a software company sort of expertise. Now that's kind of setting the stage for my actual answer. We've got a chief customer officer. Her name is Tony Caricio, and she runs our customer support team. She runs our implementation team, but most important to the answer to this question, she also runs our customer success team. And our customer success team is comprised of many industry experts that aren't just there to help a carrier of ours utilize the software as best they can. They're also there to, because of their expertise, give general guidance on, how best to get into, the drayage space, for example. And we've carefully structured that team such that they are experts, not just in how to use the software, but also in how to help carriers, really grow their business and move up market, and grow in size and in business. So
thanks for sharing those resources.
Yeah.
Our next question, regarding terminal port appointments, is there a delay in booking newly available appointments?
Good question. No, because of those API integrations, and because, most of the time we're directly integrated with the terminal via API, or again, our partner eModal, who's got, the terminal operating system, the terminal appointment system in place at, dozens and dozens of marine terminals across North America. Those are instant because of API. It's instant. I know the industry is really familiar with EDI integrations and, maybe like FTP sites and file sharing. There are delays with that, but that is not how we have integrated. Everything we've done is API, and because of that, it's programmatic, it's instant. Systems are very tightly integrated, and it's all very timely and instant.
Good to know. Another question we have is, often appointments need to be booked a few days in advance. However, the dispatcher will not know which driver is going to be available, and the appointments need specific driver information. Mm-hmm. Can the dispatcher edit the appointment after the TMS has booked it?
Yes. Yeah, they can update appointment information as well, and that's via API.
That was a quick response.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. Yes. That one's a very specific programmatic question, but the answer is yes. Yeah, that information can be updated.
Moving on, we have how do clients and BCOs respond to the enhanced data and appointment visibility?
Another good question. The feedback that we've heard from BCOs that, are just interested to learn more about our business because they see a lot of carriers, starting to use DrayOS, and we've got a customer portal that gives those aforementioned organizations a lot of visibility, like where the container is, if it's en route, if it's available, where the driver is, if it's been delivered, that kind of thing. We've just been asked to, hey, can you get on the phone and tell us a little bit about your business? And the feedback on the information that we pass upstream has been really amazing, actually. And we like to, we've seen it, right? And we like to believe that carriers that use our software can realize tangible benefits, grow their business, win more business by really providing their customers with a next level experience through the software, through the TMS, right? So long story short, the biggest, most obvious answer there is just status and event updates. So a broker or a BCO, for example, let's say they're working with 10 carriers, they're working with 100 carriers, but let's say 10 of them, are using DrayOS. That BCO, let's just say it's Home Depot. Home Depot's got access to a customer portal where they can see load statuses of like everything I just mentioned, en route, delivered, so on and so forth, in one portal for all 10 of those carriers. So they're saying, oh, wow, I have all this information as a BCO right at my fingertips. I don't have to call anybody. I don't have to send an email to anybody about getting these status updates. All I have to do is go to this portal, and all the information is real time. It's uploaded and updated constantly, right? Anytime an update is made in the TMS, that's pushed up through to the customer portal, obviously with limitations. The BCO sees what the dray provider wants them to see. But the feedback has been great. And I've heard BCOs say, well, can we get more carriers using your software? Because, this is a network for us, and we don't have to go to 10 different places to, track this information down. It's all right there. And they want to work with our carriers. And again, that's realized on the operations side when a dispatcher doesn't have to go to 15 different places. It's also realized on the customer side when the customer doesn't have to go to, 15 different places.
So kind of a follow-up question to that, which I think you kind of answered, but I don't want to let it go unanswered.
Yeah.
So how does the automated system handle sudden changes such as last-minute cancellations or rescheduling?
It's a good question. Yeah. So we I'll go back to it, but we mirror, what the terminal is telling us, or what the system that we're connected to is telling us. Whether it be the homegrown terminal appointment system, or it be e-modal. So if there's a cancellation, or the terminal shuts down operations, we are notified of that, and then that's baked into the software. There are going to be instances where, I'll just give you I don't know, like a crazy scenario, but let's just say one terminal, for whatever reason, they have to shut down in the afternoon. And maybe there's some sort of hazmat issue. Everybody's safe, but there's some sort of hazmat issue, and all those appointments in the afternoon are canceled, right? So long as the terminal is updating that programmatically, that's going to get reflected in the TMS. You may have already dispatched that driver. The driver may even be on his way down to that terminal. And then it's incumbent on, in this case, you as the dispatcher or the operations person, to take that information in and say, okay, that driver's not going to make that appointment, or the appointment doesn't exist anymore. Are there other appointments? Are there other places where you can return that empty? Is there another import that's available that I can just redispatch that driver to go get? And, maybe you already have the appointment booked. Maybe you got to book it again, but again, you can do that right from within the TMS. There are going to be exceptions. There always are. But so long as the systems are functional, and so long as all the information is available, an operations person should be able to easily, pivot, see that, and then pivot. If they have to cancel, you can cancel, for whatever. The driver wants to go home for the day as an owner operator. Like, I'm done working at 1. I don't want to go on that last, that last leg and grab that import, right? I know owner operators in California are going away, but just for example's sake, the dispatcher can update that appointment, with a new driver. If need be, they can cancel that appointment straight from within the TMS, right? That all goes back to that single pane of glass sort of theme. Anyways, long-winded answer, but
How do you, on kind of a data privacy side, how do you ensure the data privacy and security when you're sending the information between the TMS and the terminals?
yeah, really, a really good question. Data privacy, we're getting asked about that more and more, and it shows me, or illustrates to me, that folks in supply chain and logistics are starting to ask some really, like, good questions. The short answer is, we're an AWS shop, so everything that we've built is protected and secured with that infrastructure. We're looking to expand into the European market, so that means GDPR compliance, which means we've got some really tight policies internally that prevent customer data from being shared or even accessed by certain people within the organization, and certainly external to the organization. And secure pipage via API, to answer the question more specifically, is what prevents any kind of data or security related issues. So I am Walker's Trucking Company. I am booking an appointment at 8 p.m. through DreOS. That connection is tight and secure. Any driver information I share with the terminal doesn't leave that API feed, and any information that I'm getting from the terminal doesn't leave that API feed. And that's all really, tightly connected through API integrations, and then again also through our AWS infrastructure. So any security procedures that AWS has, we obviously realize by having been built on that platform.
Another question we have from the audience. Terminals are charging for missed appointments. Is your system reminding the dispatch of pending appointments?
That is a good question. I believe the answer is yes. That is a really specific programmatic question that I would actually want to confirm with our product team. That's one. I don't want to give an answer I'm not 100% sure of on obviously a public webinar or where I'm being recorded, but I believe the answer is yes. I want to drill into that, and I'm going to do that after this call, actually. I believe it does do that, though.
We will update everything accordingly if we come back You have a better answer. We'll get that updated.
A good question. Really specific one. Yeah, I like that question. Yeah.
Um, let's see. How does the appointment booking feature uh, differentiate your TMS from the marketplace?
Another good question. So I said it a little bit in the presentation, but again, there's some. Let me back up a little bit. There is a few other organizations I'm aware of that are doing programmatic API integrations to book appointments, but only one other I'm aware of that's doing it on a universal scale. And that other organization does not have a TMS. So we are, again, there are TMS providers other than PortPro that have programmatic integrations where a customer can book an appointment, but it's not at every terminal. I think it's at limited terminals. I think it may even be limited to a few specific customers. I don't know. It would be unfair for me to comment further on, other TMS providers in the market. Then there's another organization that exists that has universal appointment booking functionality, but they don't have a TMS. And so, since it's a pointed question and it was asked how we differ, to my knowledge, we are the only organization in the marketplace right now that A, has a TMS, and B, also has universal appointment booking functionality that lives straight from within the TMS. And again, goes back to that single pane of glass concept where nobody's having to leave the TMS to book all of these appointments. So again, I say that a little tongue in cheek because that's just my purview of the market and I'm only one person, but to my knowledge and to the company's belief, we are the only organization that has both of those things. And I'm pretty confident in that because universal appointment booking and integrating and connecting with partners, again, like eModal, that's relatively new in the market. And in fact, it's really new in the market. Obviously, appointments have been around forever. And carriers in any market can go to a website and book an appointment, but actually having it programmatically sit within the TMS, I think, is a really, really new concept.
And I think we have time for one more question.
Sure.
So how does PortPro gather feedback from the carriers and the users of the product to further refine and improve the system?
Yeah, another good question. I'm going to point straight back to Tony's various team. Again, Tony's our chief customer officer. I'm going to point squarely back to her teams. She's got three really big and important teams for the organization. That's a customer support, a customer success, and then our implementation and onboarding team. There are a myriad of ways that those teams collect feedback from our customers. There's feature requests, there's enhancement requests, there's integration requests, and we field all of those almost constantly, right? And again, they got to fit within our product strategy and within our product roadmap, but those teams are fully in existence to ensure our customers are A, realizing all the benefits that the software has, B, growing their business by using and utilizing the new features that we bring to market, and then C, ensuring we are taking feedback from our customers, filtering it, and then turning those into product related enhancements that get on a roadmap and that eventually make it to market. So those teams are really in existence to do that. The actual mechanisms vary. Could be email, could be phone call, could be chat with our support team, could be a feature request form, could be, us meeting somebody at the IANA Intermodal Expo and they, share some good idea with us and, we organize a call and we talk more about it. There's a myriad of different ways, but those three teams are really they've done a lot for the business in the sense that they are that arm that communicates and interacts with the customer and takes in that feedback.
Great response. Thank you. And I told a little white lie. We have one more question that I think
Sure.
you can answer. And it's an add-on to what you were just discussing. And so does or will PortPro have an advisory board made up from key customers?
Really good question. The answer is yes. It is, God, it's timely questions. It's almost like somebody's just been talking to somebody in the organization recently, but it's timely because we're formalizing that right now. We have some key customers that we go back to the well for. They're industry leaders. They've either been, some of them are customers of ours, have been customers of ours for years. Some are, certainly newer to that, but they're big industry leaders, just generally speaking, not just in the software world. And we've leaned on those folks a lot. But the answer is yes. We're kind of working on formalizing that, i.e., we have an official customer advisory board, and there's ways to kind of get in on that, where we meet quarterly or even more frequently in some cases if we're bringing a new product to market, like with ShipOS, which is our brokerage software that we're bringing to market early next year. We certainly meet more frequently than that. We also are working on an advisory board for industry veterans that want to get involved with PortPro's growth and that are really excited about what we're doing for the industry. That's not so much customers, that's like former CEOs, founders, that kind of thing that are interested in getting involved as well. So those two groups, they exist. It's informal right now. We're actually working on formalizing that moving forward. But 100%, we lean on expertise whenever we can. That goes back to the agile methodology that we run our whole business on.
Thank you, Walker. We have successfully gone through all the questions that folks have asked. So
Perfect.
I thank you very much for your time today, and thank you for your presentation. And do you have any last words before I take care of some housekeeping?
Just one, David and Hope, if you're still on the call, you guys are always great. I can't express my appreciation and thanks to Diana enough. Seriously, you guys are wonderful, and we're grateful to be here. We're grateful for the partnership, and to everybody in the audience, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Walker. That's very kind. We appreciate PortPro's involvement in IANA, and we appreciate the feedback. Just a couple quick little things. Please don't forget to visit our upcoming education page for more information about our ongoing virtual education program and upcoming events. If you have any questions about today's program, you can email us at info@intermodal.org, or you can visit us at intermodal.org. So again, PortPro, thank you so very much for sponsoring today's event. Walker, a pleasure as always. Everyone have a great afternoon, and we hope to see you soon.